Let's watch Coffeezilla's video. Everyone's got a video. I haven't watched this one yet. Everyone's talking about the AI bubble.
Back to the void. It's business talk time. No, I'm not on fire. Those are just my GPUs. I want to talk about the state of AI. Obviously, everyone's been asking, is it a bubble? Now, as someone who is terminally online, I have looked high and low for every conceivable opinion, and there are a lot of them, and I created a little slideshow. The state of the bubble. First opinion, Jim Cramer, the GOAT, saying, don't listen to the skeptics, keep an open AI mind, and he's a believer.
Even though there are countless AI skeptics,
it does look like he's farting.
the market clearly believes that OpenAI can afford to spend tens of billions of dollars on AMD's highest-end chips in addition to NVIDIA's chips. I know that I am a believer.
Now, on the other hand, you have people questioning all the amount of investment in these AI companies. Someone actually asked Mark Zuckerberg, all this money you're investing, is it worth it? Mark says, maybe we're going to misspend, but it's worth the risk.
It's a lot of money.
It is, and if we end up misspending a couple of $100 billion, I think that is going to be very unfortunate, obviously. But what I'd say is I actually think the risk is higher on the other side. If you build too slowly, and then super intelligence is possible in 3 years, but you built it out assuming it would be there in 5 years, then you're just out of position on what I think is going to be the most important technology that enables the most new products and innovation and value creation in history.
Obviously, it's from a CEO's perspective in big tech. You have to get on board the ship just in case it takes off and becomes the biggest product ever. But then you also have people, outsiders maybe, like Hank Green, who are looking at a series of bubbles and saying maybe this is a bubble.
It took a little bit of time for me to parse. And once I did, it kind of terrified me. I'm going to show it to you as well. What a good little visualization we have on our hands here. How NVIDIA and OpenAI fuel the AI money machine. It just seems messy. It seems like bubble mechanics to me, you guys.
So yeah, Hank Green says maybe looks like bubble mechanics. I'm going to remind you guys that we're doing short clips here, so I'll leave the links to the full things below if you want to watch the full videos, get their whole perspective on the thing. This is obviously a very truncated version of that. I'm just trying to give you a sense of the wide variety of takes on this whole thing. Sure. We have Paul Tudor Jones saying that if there's a bubble, it's a very small bubble.
54% of fund managers think that we're in an AI bubble. If it's a bubble, it's a small one. If you think about the bubbles of the past 3 or 4 decades, the Nikkei in 89, NASDAQ in 90.
I'll just pause right here. If we are in a bubble, I've been pretty on this train for a minute, but if AI is a bubble, it's one of the largest financial bubbles in human history. It is absurd, the level of valuations. If it doesn't generate the revenue, which so far it hasn't. Man, I found out today that 95% or 98% of OpenAI users don't pay. So ChatGPT keeps putting up these crazy user numbers, but the vast majority of them not only don't pay, but aren't willing to pay. If it were somehow to be non-free, if you had to pay, they just wouldn't use it. So that means their current model is at their current model, they have 800 million users or something, and they're not profitable. So they have to go into ads, which I guess they're trying to do. I don't know. What we're seeing is so much stuff from OpenAI recently trying to find a way to make money out of this. First it was Sora. Now they're doing sex bot stuff and they're doing partnerships with Etsy and Walmart for ads. They're just trying to find ways to make money because they now owe a lot of money. They now owe $1 trillion+ to everybody they promised to build them stuff in the next 5 years. AMD promised to build them stuff in exchange for money they don't have. NVIDIA, Oracle, InScale, CoreWeave, all these companies.
Biotech 2000, just after 2011, 12, China 2007, all those were 400% to 600% gains. The NASDAQ's up 200% off the bottom. So,
200% off the bottom. 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 200% off the bottom
I don't know whether we're going to blow off like we did in 1999. Is it possible? Are all the ingredients in place? I think clearly they are. For me, the one thing that you can never, ever forget is that a year from today, assuming that the president gets his wishes, that the Fed funds rate's going to probably be 2.5% overnight rates or 2.75. That's a really compelling story for higher equity prices.
So there you go. All the ingredients might be in place, but it could go higher from here is Paul's point because of some macroeconomics. Then you also have the perspective that actually it's a huge bubble, not a small.
Just to specify, what he's saying is we're going to lower interest rates so it's easier to borrow money so that people will borrow money and put that in the stock market or things will get bid up. 2.75 in a year, he's on crack. He's not on crack. That could happen. The cuts are coming fast and furious. I hope that Jerome Powell holds strong, but there's a very real chance we're going to cut at the end of this month, then cut again, then cut again.
According to one analyst, the AI bubble is 17 times the size of the dot-com frenzy and 4 times the subprime. And then you even have takes.
So that's actually the analyst I was talking about. I assume let me make sure this article's talking about the exact same piece I just read. Julian Garrett of MacroStrategy. There it is. Misallocated capital exceeds the 2008 peak. But that's the thing. Okay, what the piece is really saying is that if this is a bubble, then the amount of money that has been misallocated and will, go bad here is worse than any other bubble ever. If this doesn't pay off, if this doesn't turn into revenues. If something is this big, the destabilizing effect of it popping kind of forces governments to bail it out in a way like never before in human history. That's always where I get fuzzy, bro. I never understand exactly what lengths the government can change the rules on things.
The size of the dot-com frenzy and 4 times the subprime. And then you even have takes that like, yes, it's a bubble, but it's not going to pop yet. I've seen that a lot.
Are we in an AI bubble? Of course. Right? We were
Of course.
into that bubble. Of course we are. I mean, we're hyped, we're accelerating, we're putting enormous leverage into the system. That said, I don't see it ending for several years.
On top of that, of course, we have the opinion, I didn't represent it too much here, but that it's a bubble and that it's bad. This is probably most spearheaded by Ed Zitron.
The big question is whether or not all of this AI spending is a bubble.
Yes, you have committed to failure. There is no doing this. If they gave every dollar just to Sam Altman, the guy who can't even tell you why you're giving the money to him. No one else has a big business doing this. Even Claude Code with Anthropic, which is theoretically meant to be super popular, $33 million a month. That's less than the Cincinnati Reds make.
Ed's argument basically boils down to
Bro, they're not even making Moist Critical money. They're not even making Moist Critical money.
spending way too much money on AI. It doesn't justify itself in revenues. And perhaps the industry is just a much smaller industry than people are betting on. It's not going to be some $1 trillion industry. And then finally, you have of course, the perspective that yes, it's a bubble, but it's good. It's a good thing that it's a bubble. Actually,
if you go back, like the 90s had a biotech bubble, and there were a bunch of pharma startup companies that were designing drugs and using new techniques, and the world got very excited. The investment world got very excited. As a group, they all lost money, but we did get a couple of life-saving drugs. A bubble like a banking bubble, the crisis in the banking system, that's just bad. That's like 2008. And so those bubbles society wants to avoid. The ones that are industrial are not nearly as bad. They could even be good, because when the dust settles and you see who are the winners, society benefits from those inventions. They still get those life-saving drugs. And that's what's going to happen here too. This is real. The benefits to society from AI are going to be gigantic.
Well, there it is. There's all the possible perspectives I could find on AI. It's not a bubble. It is a bubble. It's a small bubble. It's a big bubble. It's a bad bubble. It's a good bubble. And I just want to remind you that nobody really knows what the future holds, lest you want to go ahead and short the market. Just know that timing the market is never really that easy
True.
and usually fails. So I'm certainly not advocating anyone run out and change their financial position. I just wanted to summarize what has been confusing me lately, which is that I've been looking at this industry wondering, is it a bubble? And if so, how big? And when is it going to pop, if ever? And so far, I've heard from a lot of people, some smart, some not, and almost no one agrees. Well, at least on the specifics. I should say, as I was reviewing this, I was like, well, actually, most people think it is a bubble of some kind. It's just like, is it a good bubble bet? Like, what type is it? That's where everyone disagrees. I will say it was hard to find people who said there's no overspending going on. I think I even found a Sam Altman quote saying that, in a private dinner, he acknowledged that maybe some people are going to overspend. So I think most people who are paying attention, I guess I should say, will admit it's frothy, but exactly how bad things are, how unsustainable things are, is where everyone just kind of wildly disagrees. And yeah, that's the state of the bubble.
Well, there we go.
Hello.
That was an interesting video, I guess. What is interesting is OpenAI has 5 years to turn 13 billion into 1 trillion. Basically, they've promised $1 trillion within 5 years of money they don't have. And if they can't, this is about revenue. It's about revenue. They need to start making $1 trillion from people, from users, in order to justify the spend. Otherwise, these promises all fall apart, which brings down the stocks of all the companies that have risen up on these promises. To bridge this gap, OpenAI is getting creative. A 5-year plan includes exploring government contracts, shopping tools, video services. This is why they're throwing everything at the wall right now. That's why they're doing hey, we're bringing back the sex bot, even though they said that's something they wouldn't do. Even though they're doing the Walmart partnership and the Etsy partnership, and they're just trying to find ways to make money because they need it so quickly. A growing number of businesses need the math to work out. So this is what I'm really honing in on. I think in my original video on this, I said the most likely person to break in the 3 arrow circle is OpenAI, because OpenAI doesn't have the money. And they're the one making all the promises. If OpenAI falters, no pressure, it could potentially destabilize the broader US market. Just to be clear, it would. Not potentially. If OpenAI falters, if it becomes obvious they aren't going to make the money, then it will destabilize the US market.